think I will ask God why for the rest of my life, and never will I come to understand it. Even if God himself came in front of me and told me the reason, I don't think I would accept it. Some loves are too hard to bear, and with great love comes great pain, and with great loss comes the greatest pain of all. If love could have saved you, you would have lived forever.
Hi guys, I know that this is a different setup than what we are normally used to, but hi, I just felt like it was a better time for me to record right now instead of trying to record once I get home, because I have a 2-hour drive home. Actually, I just left my son's playoff game in Sumter, South Carolina, and we won. Woo! So I'm excited because that extends his basketball season. Which was part of the reason of why it took me so long to get this episode out, was because, first of all, we were missing, we had missed all those games during the snow, and then we had to make them up. So the last 2 weeks, I was just, oh my gosh, slammed with basketball games, because, my daughter plays and he plays too. And then obviously we're getting to the end, so it was just high pressure. And then he had his senior night last week, so that was very emotional for me, guys. If you follow me on socials, you can see how tall my baby is. And he got one of the region players of the year. We got region champs. Now, like I said, we're in playoffs, so here we are. What else has been going on in my life? Okay, so obviously, Tell Me Lies. What kind of ending is that? Like, I have so many questions that are unanswered, which is not cool, because how are we going to dedicate so many years of our life? I mean, seriously, like years of our life to this show, and there's all these unanswered questions. And I know people will be like, I think there's a book. I know people will be like, oh, well, go read the book. Well, I don't want to read the book. You know what I mean? Like, I want to see it. I've been watching the show. I want to see it on the TV. But, whatever. Steven is definitely such a narcissist, which, I think we've all had that type of narcissist in our life at one point. We came across a guy that was like that, or just thought way too much of himself, and, like, yuck. I cannot stand him. 90 Day Fiance. I'm pretty sure I touched on the fact about the woman pretending that she wasn't lesbian for a long time, which was kind of crazy, but it is what it is. I'm still in like the hiatus of all that. There's not really another couple that I'm like super interested in or that sticks out to me, other than the woman and the African man, which her daughter came out and like, she's actually a scammer too. She shaved her head to pretend she had cancer so a hospital would give her money or something. It was crazy. And then Love is Blind. Oh my gosh. So I wish that we could all interact with each other, because I'm talking and I want to hear what y'all have to say back. So Christine and Vic, love them. Obviously, being a biracial woman, I love the intentional conversations that they had about, like, had the fact that she said, it's hard for me to think of me having a child and there's something I can't relate to them about. And that is so true, because when I was growing up, maybe not so much now. I'm actually proud of how far we've come along now with these teenagers and kids, because I do feel like everybody hangs with everybody. Which I could be wrong. Y'all could write me and be like, no, it's still racist as hell. But, whenever I was growing up, it quite literally was, if you are mixed, you're too black for the white people, you're too white for the black people. And, it wasn't until we all grew up to where we can all hang out and it's okay. But in school, it was definitely different. So I like that they are both emotionally intact, but then also I like that they are both intelligent enough to have these conversations early, because they are hard conversations to have, especially when you're discussing children. And I love that her mama thought that he was fine, because honey, Dick is fine. And I don't even remember that guy's name, the one that was like a realtor. And he had 1 minute, he's like telling a girl, like giving her a basketball, but then the next minute the girl's like, oh, if you don't choose me, I'm leaving. To me, I felt as though she was kind of manipulating him with the whole, if you don't leave me, but then you pop back up in there. And it's like, honey, like, if you have to show out and do all that, then, you know, maybe you weren't the one that he was picking, which is fine because it is Love is Blind. But either way, you know, they both left him, whatever. Can we get to Mr. Pee Wee Herman? The guy that is literally this big. I think that someone on TikTok or Instagram called him Elf on the Shelf. You know, when they were having that conversation on the couch, I could feel the old Ashley that used to do stuff to Jorge and Tom, like itching on the couch. Like my hand was twitching because her emotional control is phenomenal. Like phenomenal. Because how can you listen to this man who ain't even all that himself, almost degrade you sexually and physically, and you just sit there and you're like, I mean, y'all, I think I probably support violence, but I might have flicked him really, really hard, or popped him upside the head, or I would have probably just honestly got up and walked off, because maybe everybody did this too, but when he was talking about like her body and stuff, I was like, well, is there something that I'm missing? Does she have like cellulite or like a belly that I didn't see? Or I don't know. Because me, I was a late bloomer. So I hit puberty super late. But when I did hit puberty, I hit it. I got hips, I got butt, like everything came. And so since I hit puberty, I've never been a little girl. I've never been super skinny. You know, I think I was wearing like size 9, 10 in high school, you know, with my pant size. So I've never ever been a skinny girl. Like I'm 5'8", my hair's big, I'm 5'9", you know, like my hips are bigger because I've had children early, I feel like, or maybe they're just big because I don't work out as much as I should. But either way, you know, I started like thinking to myself, what are you talking about? What I'm trying to say is I would have picked him up and dumped his ass, because there's no way that you are 5'2", 5'3", and you're over here yapping your mouth and one of your ears looks like it took the height from you and grew out the side of your head. So anyway, so while she's sitting there, I'm like, okay, maybe there's some belly that I missed. What is he referring to? Telling her, oh, well, I'm used to girls that do Pilates. But when she got up, I started looking. I was like, okay, what is he talking about? This girl is tiny. Okay, maybe her body is not as toned as what he would like, but why would you go Love is Blind? Are you serious right now? Love is Blind, and you're literally bringing her down because of how she looks and her body, when her body is fine and she's perfect. And to me, you're over here comparing her to Breezy. And I'm not a girl hater. I'm not at all. But to me, she's prettier than Bree was. You know what I'm saying? And it can't be about the working out and the bodies, because Bree's body is still, she's not 80 pounds either. It's okay for women to have women bodies. Like, I truly think that he saw like a boss baddie that was on her stuff and who was a doctor, $500 million house. She was pretty, and I think that he knew in that moment, there's nothing I can do for you. So what can I do? I'm going to bring you down to my level to where you think I'm the best that you'll ever get. Which was triggering for me, because that's going to bring me to my next point of the whole point of my episode 5. So that was kind of crazy hearing that, you know. But tell me what y'all's thoughts are. Tell me who your favorite couples are. You know, write me on Instagram or Facebook, whatever. Let me know what you think. So, anyways, episode 5. We are starting over at 21. We have a 1 and a 5-year-old. We are in our income-based apartments, and it's just me and the kids. We're thriving. We're doing the best that we possibly can do. I obviously am going through a heartbreak because I just did not expect for Tom to have went and cheated on me. And, you know, especially with us having 3 young kids at the house. What comes after that? Ashley's single. She's living her best life. She's, you know, going out with her girls, and I'm just figuring myself out. Well, as I'm figuring myself out, I come across this guy, and we are going to call him Bluey. That's going to be a great name. So Bluey is this guy that I had met years ago whenever I had gone on senior week. My cousins were dating his cousins, but it was nothing like that. Like, we just kind of crossed paths, like, hey, you know, whatever. And then, you know, like, it was nothing. So we're fast forwarding years later to Bluey coming back around because I'm single now. And why not? So it was one of those type of, like, situations to where I think it was a fun time that went a little too long. And you know those types of situations where you were just kind of dumb. It's probably like the lowest that you probably like dated. I mean, I know that I talked about like Jorge, but Jorge like provided. Like, you know, if we're being honest, like Jorge provided. He paid the bills. Like, he helped me and my mom. His family did too. He was just a wild boy, but he always had provided for me and made sure I was taken care of. I had my school clothes, everything like that. Tom, you know, same thing. Like, you know, he came from a good family, blah, blah, blah. Well, this guy, because I had been in relationships for so long, I didn't think of doing like a Carfax on him, if that's what we are. Like, I guess we can call it that. Like, I didn't think about doing a Carfax because me, even though I had been hurt, it was one of those things where I still hope that people have good intentions. And so Bluey comes back around, and at this point, there was probably red flags that I should have seen, I should have known about. But when you go through 2 relationships and you haven't really been single much in like your adult life at all, and the 2 relationships that pretty much made up like your childhood and early teen, or in your, you know, your late teens, you were cheated on, it really makes you flip that mirror to yourself and see cracks in yourself. It makes you self-conscious. It makes you be like, well, what is it about me that I can't get this tier of man? So y'all have to understand that at this time, I mean, I'm still learning. I'm still a baby. Like, I had 2 kids before I could even drink. If we're, like, seriously, I couldn't even legally take a sip of alcohol, but I was a mom of 2. And, you know, when you start getting down on yourself and feeling like you are not enough, you'll kind of resort to looking over red flags and look at the slim pickings and be like, well, at least somebody wants me. I mean, I know that somebody out there that's listening can understand like where I'm coming from in this. So anyway, so Bluey, like I said, he comes along. I didn't do a Carfax on him. I don't know anything, but Bluey turns out to be a master manipulator. So let me just tell you. So, he's like, hey, you know, can I take you on a date, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, sure. That's fine. And he picks me up. He's driving this, like, super nice Cadillac. And I'm like, wow, this is nice. And he's like, yeah, it's mine, blah. I kid y'all not. We go on probably 7 to 10 dates. And I'm riding this Cadillac. And who doesn't have a car at 20, I don't know. So then all of a sudden, the Cadillac got in a wreck. It got totaled. Okay, that's fine. The Cadillac got totaled. Dang, you don't have a car right now. That sucks. Well, we continue on. He started like driving his mom's car, his family's car, things like that. And at this point, I am still doing hair. I'm always at the salon, so I don't really know what you're doing. And then I also have like 2 kids, and like if I'm not at the salon, I'm with my kids. And then every other weekend, Avery would go to her dad's house. And then when she would go to her dad's house, my son would go to his granddad's house, so I could always have like every other weekend off. So that's normally like whenever I would see him. So he would always say like, "Oh, I'm off work." I never thought to question it because once again, who doesn't have a job, at this big age? Well, okay. So we're fine. I'm thinking that, he's a nice guy, but this is before the, like, are we dating the same guy pages, like, I don't know anything about him. And that's my stupidity. And who am I to tell a guy, oh, because you had a car and then you totaled it and got in a wreck, that you're not worth me giving my time to. You know what I'm saying? It's like, that's just wrong to me, especially when I have 2 kids. Like, what if somebody just wrote me off because of my 2 kids? Well, anyways, so we're going on. We have our relationship or situationship. I don't really know what to call it. Little stuff starts coming up like random girls would text me or snap me and be like, hey, he was here with me. And then I would ask him. He'd be like, no, they just want me to date them. I was the first girl he posted on his social media. I think I went to like the beach with his family once, things like that. So I think we're young and dumb. He would always like, oh, they're just hating because I dropped them. Like, I'm talking with them and then I start talking to you and that we're together. So they're just whatever, we're just young and dumb, like I said. So like the little things were there, but nobody had proof. Well, one day we got into it really bad, and this is when Twitter was still a thing. And we had gotten into it really bad, and he had said something like, well, if you leave, then who's going to want you with these young kids, and blah, blah, blah. Like, he said something like super disrespectful, and it just bothered me. And at this time, I was immature, and so I went on Twitter, and on Twitter I had posted something like, it's crazy how like we see all these celebrities with kids and people are dating them. Like, when you would like tweet subtweet, and like he was tweeting, and then I said, it's crazy how you say you don't really, that I can't get a man because I have kids, something, but yeah, I got you, and he had no kids. Well, little did I know, I get a little DM from somebody on Twitter. And it's a person that I have been friends with for years. We went to high school together. And this person goes, I hope you aren't referring to Bluey saying that about you. And I was like, actually, I am. And he goes, well, how can he say that about you when he got his own kid? Ugh. What? Oh, what do you mean he has his own kid? And I remember that there was a time where I was looking at his phone and a message had came through, and it was something about child support. And him and Bluey has a brother that has a very similar name to his. And I asked him about this child support, and he told me that was a text message for his brother, but his brother had multiple kids that were on child support too, and that wasn't for him. Nobody's ever came out the woodwork about him having a kid. And so, and then it made me reflect back, like, damn, like, that was a red flag. Like, how did I not catch that, So, anyways, I'm doing all this investigating because what do you mean I'm not that girl. There's no way that I'm kind of like seeing you, dating you, and I have a kid, 2 kids. I'm a whole single mom. I know what that's like. And you have a kid, and you're not going to be in your kid's life? Like, I don't do that, because to me that is completely disrespectful to whoever is the child's mom. So I didn't even know the child's mom. I didn't know anything. I thought this was all just like bull crap rumors, like, just there's no way. Well, There is a way, because then all of a sudden I started getting flooded with pictures and text messages of this kid. I kid you not. Twins. How can you say this is not your kid? So of course I have my pile of evidence. I go to Bluey. I say, hey, you have a kid. No, I don't. This kid looks just like you. And the kid even has my kid's name, which is even crazier. Like, crazy. He made up some stupid lie and was like, she messed with like 10 guys at a time, and it wasn't me, and somebody else did this and this, and he would make up all these lies about this girl. And I was like, okay, but it doesn't matter what she did at all. If this is your kid, you need to be doing for your kid regardless. So what did I do? Reached out to the mom and I said, hey, I am so sorry if it has come across to you, or it came to you, that I am dating your baby daddy and I'm a mother myself, and you have a child and he is not around. And I said, because how disrespectful is that? Like, how does that look, right? So she's like writing me back. She's like, yes, he's always used this thing, always denied him. He won't take a DNA test. And there's no need for a DNA test, baby, because, I mean, the kid looks just like him. Okay, so me and her are like powwowing, and I basically tell him that there's the ultimatum. I say, hey, if you want to continue seeing me and dating me, you're going to have to step it up for your kid. Period. At this point, I'm still thinking that he's got his job. He also was going to school, and his car, he was saving for another car. Yeah, let's try to get him sometime, and we'll see, and I'll get my DNA test. And I was like, no, Bluey, he's yours. Like, he's yours. If y'all knew what this kid looked like, you would know. So I'm waiting. Weeks are rolling around. I'm giving him the girl's number. I'm like, hey, you need to reach out to her. You need to take him to a park, meet her at Chuck E. Cheese, something. Because at this point, I think that like her kid's like 5. So I'm giving him a long time to make a point to reach out to this child. He does not. But at the same time, he's like begging me, like, don't leave me, like, please, like, I'm just trying to figure it out, like, that if I really do have a kid, which is shocking, because, you know, if he really did think that this kid wasn't his, and then it turned out to be his, like, I was just trying to be, like, you know, understanding of the situation, and, you know, her too. She had been wanting him to be around, like, you know, because she said her son had always asked, like, you know, like, will I ever get to know my dad? I think that she told him, if I can remember correctly, and girl, correct me if I'm wrong if you're listening to this, she told him like he's working all the time or something like that. Well, he wasn't doing initiating it, but he was like begging and crying for me not to leave. So what'd your girl do? At this point, it's been like months. So me and the boy's mom, we have built up a relationship. I think that she realized Ashley's really just trying to help. And that was dumb on my part, because if you're going to be a dad, you're going to be a dad regardless. Anyway, so I go get the kid, and at this point I had my house, and I'm like, hey, do you want to come over and play? And he was like, yeah. So I get him, I bring him to the house, and I knew that Bluey was going to stop by and see me when he got off work. So when he got off work, he came to my house, and he walks in, and there's this kid at my kitchen table. I think I had gotten him pizza, I had gotten him like all kinds of stuff, and I kind of just forced it, because no, you're not going to keep trying to date me when you got a whole freaking kid. You know what I'm saying? And we didn't like introduce him as like his dad or anything. It was just like, hey, this is my friend Bluey, and he was like, hey, what's up? Like, it was not clicking at all that was his dad. So, because, you know, me and his mom had agreed that it was just going to be very casual, so to say. So anyways, he comes and he's playing with Jaden, and me and Bluey were friends, and him and Jaden were friends, and like we were just cool, like we would, you know, like do stuff to try to make it not so weird and have them. So They actually still, like, I think they're like still in communication now. But anyways, so after a couple of meetings, I was like, okay, like, I'm gonna take the back seat and see if he like initiates these meetings, if he's going to be the one that, you know, tries to, you know, get his kid, things like that. Well, he didn't. And so that kind of pushed me toward being on the way out. And at this point, you know, like we said, like, the little stuff was happening here and there that were red flags, that I probably should have picked up on more, but I didn't, or I just didn't feel like that they were as big as they were. But anyways, so not only are you not doing for your kid, then little things are coming up here and there. Well, one day I had got off work and his mom had asked me to come up there, to come up to their house so she could show me some like stuff she got from shopping. So I go up there and I'm sitting on their couch. Well, all of a sudden, in walks Bluey with his friends. And I say, I kid y'all not, I say, Bluey, what are you doing here? I thought that you were at work. We're going to tell y'all, the whole house, brothers, cousins, sisters, parents, busted out laughing and was like, Bluey, a job? What are you talking about? What do you mean? What do I mean? Like, who doesn't have a job? Like, right? And I was like, oh. And they're like, he hasn't had a job in a while. And I was like, oh, okay. And so he basically like started fussing, like getting mad at his family. He's like, man, why y'all doing that? Blah, blah. Y'all know I'm trying to get back on my feet. And nobody else said anything about it. I guess they caught the drift. Obviously, I have questions, right? So I am talking to him and I say, what do you mean you don't have a job? How long has this been happening? And he basically tells me that I did have a job, but I got laid off and I was too embarrassed to tell you. And I was trying to find a job, start working another one before you found out. Okay. As a man, you know, I can kind of understand that, right? Like, a man wouldn't be embarrassed if they got laid off and they didn't have a job or money coming in. And at this time, whenever we would go on dates, he did pay for dates. He did pay for stuff. So I'm not thinking, like, I don't know, where are you getting this money from? I don't know. So whenever that happened, it just kind of triggered me back to Jorge, of, you know, obviously like where that money came from, my mom and things like that. I just felt like I was kind of like in a deja vu for a second. Well, then, later on, I had asked his mom, I said, so with him not having a job right now, I was like, are y'all going to help him get another car? And at that point, they were like, what do you mean another car? And I was like, another one, you know, the Cadillac that he had. Well, at this point, I'm also finding out that Cadillac was not his either. The Cadillac was one of his friends, and he had fallen out with that friend. That friend told him he had to stop driving it. Like, what? Like, our whole first couple months of you driving the Cadillac to my house, picking me up, taking me on dates, going places. This was your friend's car the whole time that you said you totaled it and wrecked it, and like that's why you're driving your parents' car. And then turns out you didn't even have a job. So I'm just like, bro, what is going on? I feel like I'm already attached, I think is the right word. So I'm already attached, like, you know, I feel feelings for him. Like, I'm not gonna lie and say that I didn't. At this point, I think they're starting to diminish, but I really hope that there was a good person in there. You know what I mean? I'm always the person who, like, I want to hope for the best for people. Well, He was like, Ashley, I got a job. And I was like, oh, really? And he was like, yeah. And like he had this whole company where he was going to work. And so sometimes like he would spend the night with me. And then he would say he had to like wake up and go to work and things like that. And he would put on a full button down polo and slacks. Like, this went off for a long time. If he stopped by my house after he got off work, he was in a button down and slacks. So every time he saw me or he would come by the salon, he would be in work clothes. So I mean, and he still had his money. Obviously, you do have some type of job. I mean, right, y'all? I know, but I know. The dumbest. This is probably the dumbest relationship I think I've ever been in. Like, I look back on that now, and it's just, I have a reasoning for it now. I went to therapy to have a reasoning for it. So it turns out that was a whole lie too. That, but he was getting dressed every day to see me at the salon, show his face, pretend he was going to work, and then go up to his place or his friends or whatever, smoke weed all day. I had no idea, but here we are. It is what it is. He didn't really stay around for his kid. I think maybe their relationship is better now. But me and the kid were still cool. Something about kids, like, I have a heart for them, especially with having an absent mom in my life. You know, obviously my son's dad's not around. But anyways, he went to my house and he was waiting on me to get off work. So whenever I pulled up at my house, like, this girl was like texting and calling me, and she's like, there's something I need to tell you. And I was like, okay. And so I'm on the phone driving to my house, and I know he's there because we're supposed to go on our date. Like I said, it was our every other weekend. And so I get there, and the girl's still on the phone, and I had 2 Xboxes, and they were the Xbox Ones maybe. So my son had one in his room, and then I had one in the living room too, because he had actually got 2 for Christmas one year. Well, when I walked in, he had on a headset and was playing my Xbox in my living room, sitting on like an ottoman. And I had a girl on the phone, and he was like, who are you talking to? I pulled the headphone back, and I put the phone on speaker. I let him hear what she was saying, and then I don't know, like, I think I just like smacked the crap out of him, and so hard where like he fell off the ottoman, and the headphones flying, and we got into it real bad. Like, I mean, I think a mirror was shattered. I think the fan was like, it was just so toxic. It was like, dude, like, my dude, you ain't got no job, you ain't got no car, you bum baby daddy. Okay, so boom, we're done. Tell him like it's time for you to go. We just gotta be done. Well, after that, I had completely forgotten. I had given him a key to my house, so that way, you know, if he ever wanted to go over there, I was getting off work, you know, things like that, there was a key. I didn't expect for him to be such a piece of crap. You know, I just thought he would be like, okay, well, I am a piece of crap person, and I did all this to her, so I'm just going to leave. Well, he did it. He had my key. He came in. He stole both my Xboxes. He stole, at this point, Michael Kors was really popular. He stole all my Michael Kors watches, my purses. I had this big piggy bank full of cash. So like I said, I did hair, so I would just always shove my tips and stuff in this big glass jar. And he stole that. He stole everything from me. And anything that was of value, it was gone, it was sold. So, you know, definitely a shitty person, seriously, especially considering the fact that this is my kid's stuff. And this is not your stuff. You don't work for anything. I work. Like, you know, you have your money. But thankfully, I've always been able to have a job and have my own place. So, you know, you can come and go as you want. Like, you can take that little shit, but you still ain't even got your own place. So I just had to learn to, as bad as I wanted revenge on him, I think I was more hurt that, you know, accepted different things from you, and you just stole from me and my kids. Like, you know, whatever. So it just changed definitely how I looked at him, for sure. And you just never really know, like, who people really are. So anyways, He's definitely tried to get back with me over the years, and you know, he finally apologized for everything and admitted to it. Because at first he's like, "Oh, I didn't do it. Like I must have accidentally left the door unlocked. Somebody must have went in there or something." But no, like he finally admitted to it and was like, "I'm sorry. I don't know, whatever." But I don't even think he has a job now. I don't know like how he's getting by in life, but that was the most bummest relationship I've ever had. I'm so embarrassed. But like I said, I don't even know if it's like a relationship. It was just, let's just say it was a learning curve instead of a relationship. But that leads me to my next point. I think that when we have these relationships where we want to be caretakers, it's a problem with us. Because if it was not for me having my mother wound, if it was not for me had gotten cheated on by Jorge and Tom, then I don't think I would have settled for that. I think that so much damage had been done with me emotionally that I felt like, okay, this is the best I can get, right? I had 2 young kids. You're not perfect. You're not everything that I want, but you still like me, right? And I don't really know how to sugarcoat it, but like that was my fuck up. I let too much shit slide. I let red flags that I should have noticed before that were big major red flags, or I should have questioned like, oh, where do you work? Who do you work with? I mean, he definitely always had an excuse of where he worked. Can I see a paycheck stuff? But like as women, we shouldn't have to do that. Like, even as men too, we shouldn't have to do that. But I was 21 and I was just an idiot. I think I was hurt from Tom. And honestly, Bluey was probably just a rebound that lasted too long. It was just like, dang, what have I gotten myself into? And then, by the time you get in that toxic cycle of, the emotional ups and downs and things like that, it's kind of hard to leave. It really made me realize that we are picking them. That's when I really was like, okay, I'm going to take a break. Like, I mean, of course I got to talk to and like, went on dates and stuff for a little, like, with some people. After that, I was just, okay, it's time for me to have fun. But I just can't believe that someone just was like that manipulative. But I couldn't believe that somebody was that manipulative until the next chapter came. And that's what's really going to shock y'all. But I do want to just point out that the mother wound is so incredibly deep, and we really don't even know. Like, we pick partners that remind us of our parents in not so good ways. It was almost like the in and out and him not being perfect and him having these issues reminded me of my mom, and it was the little girl in me just wanted to help him and fix him and be there. But just from experience, you can never be a man's ride or die. When they ain't got no job, like, that shit's supposed to be in them. They're supposed to be hunters. They're supposed to be providers. Like, it's in them. There's no amount of fixing that you can do. They have to want to fix themselves. Like, it's pitiful, the situations that we put ourselves in as women for men when we have our shit together. So why don't you have your shit together? And supposedly you had no kids, and I had 2, and I had my shit together and you did. We've got to stop giving men excuses for reasons to hurt us and for us to be ride or dies. Well, I felt so bad for them. And no, we're grown. Get over that shit. Do what you got to do. Leave them where they stand. Stop being ride or dies. Like, that's crazy. But anyways, so yeah, that was my episode 5. Sorry, kind of got dark on y'all, but episode 6, we're gonna start talking about Ashley started to find happiness, love, and and all the good things, and then how it all came crashing down. And that one's probably going to be a 2-part episode because y'all are going to be shooketh on that one. Okay, bye friends.